What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are continuing on our series of Birthright domain reviews. So we have finished up the southern coast and the western coast. We are now moving into the Heartlands, which is really exciting. There's a lot of interesting realms and domains there. So as usual, we're going to take a look at sort of the overall description of the Heartlands and see what's going on there, kind of set the stage for some of the domains that we're going to take a look at, and then kind of go from there and add some commentary as we go. So the sort of background history here: patchwork patterns of farmland spread across the Heartlands, the sun playing gently on the fields of green and gold. Shepherds keeping an eye on their flocks find themselves dozing in its warmth. The people in the bustling southern imperial capital smile at the light glinting on the blue waters off their island city. And again, the imperial capital, or former imperial capital, the city of Anuire itself, is an interesting one too. Not available for players, of course, but heck, you could have a campaign just adventuring in and around there, certainly. So, but we'll cover that in turn. Yet some areas of the Heartlands feel cold, even in the summer's worst heat. These brown, blasted tracts of earth mark the sites where countless armies clashed in historic battles. Here nothing will grow. The dusty earth has absorbed the blood of generations. The Heartlands have been the center of power in Anuire for longer than nearly anyone alive can remember. Since the kingdom of Avenil in this region holds the imperial city of Anuire, the realms have revolved around this land for nearly 2,000 years. The region encompasses the territory east of the Sea Mist Mountains, south of the Stone Crowns, and north of the Spiderfell. There's no natural eastern boundary, but everyone agrees that the Heartlands stop at the eastern border of Elenie. Most land in the Heart has long been claimed and cultivated. A few ruins still await thorough exploration, and a handful of caverns have not been completely mapped. Clearly, the main excitement in the Heartlands does not revolve around the breaking of untamed land. Instead, this area features human drama, the subtle interplay of politics and armies, of espionage and trade. Less sophisticated folk look to the frontiers for their thrills. Others seek their stimulation in the intrigues of the heart. So, and whereas before with the southern and western coast, where basically every domain has essentially been or has had access to coastline and water, here we do have basically most of them essentially being landlocked, although most of these domains do border on major rivers. So there's that at least, but certainly a little bit further away from any of the coasts that we've looked at so far. The Heartlands have replaced the southern coast as the most civilized area of Anuire. While the southern lands have declined with the passing of the Empire, the Heartlands have flourished instead. So, of course, it's also true that the kingdoms of the Heart have been the subject of numerous coup attempts, takeovers, and invasions by larger neighbors. There's rarely a dull moment in the Heartlands, and locals treasure those dull moments as respite from the constant action. So, a little bit more here. As the center of old imperial politics, the city of Anuire offers plenty of intrigue to go around. And as we said, you can almost, if you're just doing like the adventuring thing, as far as like playing Birthright, there's practically infinite possibilities there too, if you're in and around the imperial capital there. There's always a plot afoot to win the Iron Throne from some eager ruler, or a conspiracy to bend the ear of the current favorite. So many schemes bubble in the capital that one can't even keep track of them all. It's foolish to try, really. The plots change so quickly, there's no guessing what tomorrow or the day after will bring. Any machination visitors might want to engage in likely will produce little result, but there's always the chance that a new plot will win the bold riches and power beyond even their wildest dreams. As always, Darien Avon, Prince of the Kingdom of Avenil, and again, we've mentioned him several times before. We will be getting to him and his domain here in this series. As always, he keeps his hand in the politics of Anuire. This smooth and charismatic man can win enemies over with just a word or two, and if he fails to win them that way, he can simply make them disappear. Now, of course, those stories might just be rumors invented to discredit Avon, and they might not be. So, and again, we'll take a nice look at what all is going on in that powerhouse of a domain. So the sort of current rumors that can help you get started with things, plot points and so on and so forth. So this is more for the DM, would be, but again, you would probably have some general knowledge of this as players and potentially other rulers of domains. But anyway, so it's things going on in the Heartlands today. So other rumors claim Darien Avon is looking to solidify his hold on the province of Anuire, and therefore indirectly on the historically independent imperial city of Anuire. Reportedly, he'll even let his other holdings crumble to nothing if he must. The prince has been overheard more than once to say that the one who controls Anuire, the city, controls Anuire, the empire. So, again, lots of rumors involving him always, and with him and Borrowing, which we've covered in a previous part of the series. Those are typically seen as the two main contenders for the Iron Throne. Although I would certainly say Avon has arguably the stronger position, at least on paper. Larger treasury, far larger army, and in some ways also more strategically located. Again, being essentially surrounding the imperial city itself. Naturally, the other rulers of the Heart feel less than excited about the idea of Darien, Prince of Avenel, demanding fealty from them. Gavin Tail, Baron of Gore, has once again, and to the alarm of his neighbors, begun, in quotes, training his armies on the border of his domain. And Gore is this massive thing, this domain here right in the center of everything. Lots and lots of provinces, and really a massive army as well. And we'll definitely be getting to him. Fortunately, no one also really likes the ruler of Gore, so that kind of keeps him in check, as he's kind of, certainly landlocked and bordering all kinds of other domains. The Baron dismisses as hearsay and vicious slander reports that his imperialistic urges have gotten the best of him. Of course, such statements from him don't reassure his neighbors at all, with his troops still sitting at their doorstep. Some domains have begun massing armies at Gore's border to ensure that Tail means no harm. Again, most people tend to want to keep him in check, just so that any potential adventurism on his part kind of, again, stays within his own realm. It doesn't really have a chance to grow. But that being said, it's questionable if most of the surrounding countries or kingdoms or domains, however you want to rule it, really could stop him if he had any aspirations of really letting loose and conquering some territories. But we'll get into that as we work through the realms here. All right. There's rarely much danger of Anshe attacks in the Heartlands, although the spider has made some threatening noises again lately. However, those who mainly need to worry about it from this side, namely the kingdoms of Gore and Anuire, have prepared well against possible spider attacks. What everyone expects, but no one is truly ready for, is the next rampage of the Gorgon. And again, we'll get to the Gorgon later when we get into the northern territories. That is sort of the big bad of this setting. So once per generation, the mightiest of the Anshalian marches through all Anuire, harvesting the new bloodlines and making itself ever more powerful. So nearly 20 years has passed since last the Gorgon raged, and the land must ready itself for arriving. And basically, Gorgon is a little bit further north here, and typically rampages through here. And this is something that you can sort of use as a potential reset in a campaign, or even at the outset. Sort of basically, everything is kind of hitting the fan, so to speak, and just pure chaos. And that is definitely something that, and probably the only thing really that can force all the various realms to sort of put aside their differences for a moment and try to not really stop him, but just slow him down enough, and essentially avoid falling victim to him coming and stealing their bloodlines, basically. Which brings us to the next rumor here. So the Guardians of Morrid, that kingdom's army, have kept very busy lately. Scouts have observed goblin and dwarf forces, the combined armies of Markazor and Mur-Kilad, training together in Markazor. As the Gorgon commands those two domains, the Mor is bracing his kingdom against the abomination's inevitable onslaught. Historically, the Gorgon marches through Morrid first, and as always, goblin raids remain frequent along the Markazor-Morrid border. So Morrid is kind of like the sort of front line here, the bastion here. Basically, they will bear the brunt of any invasion typically. So this domain here, this big forest, this is an elven nation. We'll get into that later on. Basically, Markazor is a goblin kingdom, and basically they will just start rampaging through here, again, right on the front line here. And you might find that weird if you're not familiar with the setting, but yes, there are goblin kingdoms, there are full-on dwarf kingdoms, elf kingdoms. The elves are very xenophobic in this setting, and also the dwarves here, the Duergar, are allied, at least nominally, with the goblins and everything, basically with the Gorgon kind of overseeing everything and forcing cooperation, if nothing else. So it's an interesting situation in the Heartlands again. Lots and lots of politics. So this is, as it said at the outset here, this is more about sort of dealing with your human neighbors and all the intricacies and plots going on here. Lots and lots of big realms, as you can see. So southern coast nations were fairly small, as we saw, to medium-sized, and some of the ones on the western coast were certainly smaller as well. Here we have some very large domains, and again, 2 of them here at least are not available for players. We'll cover them. These are 2 of the major powerhouses here. So again, Avenel, we just mentioned, Gore as well. Certainly has a massive army and very imperialistic ambitions, but again, given his situation here, so he's kind of at the dead center of things. So to use an analogy, this is kind of like the Germany of the setting, so landlocked in kind of the middle of the continent, or this part of the continent here. So you have Tornin, which we'll get to, is available for players, Alamier and Morid and Elenier, and Endir as well. And then, like I said, we'll cover each of those in turn. Each of them presents some interesting opportunities. And if it's not an issue of being caught in the middle between the sort of human power struggles between like Avenel and Borrowing, or dealing with Gore, you have other non-human neighbors and other things to deal with here, and everyone kind of has to at least be cognizant of the Gorgon and whenever that next sort of rampage will be happening there. So it would be if someone have ambitions of maybe building up their fame and fortune and really raising a claim as to being worthy as a potential future emperor, finding a way to maybe get some of these disparate kingdoms and territories to work together, and maybe even really put a dent in the Gorgon's attempts, could position you at least as something of a hero, and being able to bind these territories together. So, but again, that's far off in the future. So we'll cover each of these domains in turn. Look forward to that series here. So we'll be covering that over the next few weeks. And I hope that gives you guys a good idea of what the Heartlands is all about. And if you guys could leave us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. Comment if you've played any of the Heartlands domains or in and around there, if you've done just role playing in the setting and not necessarily the part of Birthright where you're running a domain itself and playing that part of the game. But in either way, let us know what your thoughts have been in the various territories here. It's always interesting to hear what other people have done and played in the setting. And other than that, thanks so much for stopping by again, guys. We'll see you in the next video as we get started, which I believe will be Avenel to kick off. So we'll see you then.